Hi ladies, welcome back to my channel, Parenting with Purpose. I'm Christian, and today I want to share something with you regarding protecting your seed. Protecting your seed. I'm talking about your child here, right? So many of us, we grew up in homes where we were exposed to a lot. Maybe you've seen some things that you shouldn't have. Maybe you've heard some things that you shouldn't have, and still has an impact on your life. And let's say you have not addressed it. Now you're a grown adult, now you have a child of your own. And you've never addressed the things that you were exposed to. You've never addressed the things that that you saw as a child. All right. And so now you have a child of your own, you have your own place, and now you're starting to see some things that look familiar. And it's kind of reminding you of when you grew up, back in your childhood, and you're trying to figure out like what's going on. Like, this reminds me of back when I was a kid. And so something that I've learned is that as long as we have a void that we have not taken time to bring to God, like to bring to his attention, and for him to fill up that void, as long as there's a longing, a desire for that void to be filled, yet we haven't brought it to God, it is literally an opportunity for Satan to come in and begin wreaking havoc in your home. And so what I'm referring to is familiar spirits. All right. So just because you left the house, just because you're no longer in the same house that you grew up in, or in the same environment, the same city that you grew up in, it doesn't matter. It's going to follow you until someone puts a halt to it and says, okay, enough is enough. All right. And so most of us, we grew up in homes experiencing different patterns, whether it be a good pattern or a toxic pattern. And I'm talking about, some people will call it toxic patterns, some people will call it generational curses. I'm going to go back and forth, but I want you to understand where I'm coming from. It's a toxic pattern, which equals a generational curse. All right. And so let's put a pin in it right there. I want you to think of, let's say someone gives you a gift. We all like gifts. And let's say someone gives you a gift and it's uniquely for you. Like, number one, is going to make you feel special because it lets you know that person they put in time and effort. They really had to put some thought into it because they know who they're buying it for, and they know what you like, right? You feel special. Number two, you take care of it differently. You might put it up on your shelf for everyone to see it as soon as they walk into your place. Depending on what it is, you might wear it frequently. One thing is, you would only share it with certain people, and certain people that only you trust, right? And that's what God does when he blesses us with his children. He entrusts us with our children. So he entrusted you with your child. He saw you. He knew you before he put you in your mother's womb. He already knew your journey. He already knew what he put in you. He already knew what he put in you to possess. He already knew what he's called you to do. Yet he still knew what your journey in life was going to look like, and he knew what your struggles was going to be. He knew your highs and your lows before you even got here, and yet he still entrusts you with that child. Okay? So God blessed us with our children. God says our children are an inheritance to the Lord. We are blessed. I think there's another scripture I think it's in the book of Psalms, if I'm not mistaken, where it talks about that we are blessed as parents because our children are like arrows. We're literally discipling in our own home. And then we get to, share that gospel with our children, and then they go out with their friends or out into the world and they share the gospel. So it's just a constant ongoing sharing of the gospel, right? So over this time, I've learned the importance of protecting my seed, my son. All right. You might have a son, you might have a daughter, but it's protecting your seed. When you understand that you have been blessed with a gift, when you understand that God has entrusted you with another human being, all right, a seed, your seed, you will begin to take care of it differently because your mind is in a different place. There's a shift that takes place when you realize that it's a gift. What you do, or let me put it like this, what you don't protect is easily, how can I put this? What you don't protect becomes bait for the enemy. What you don't protect becomes bait for the enemy. It's the same thing with your car. You say you're at Kroger or something and you want to bring the basket back to the cart, but you leave your car unlocked. The door could be closed, but it's unlocked. And that's an easy way, because what you're doing is, even though you're leaving it and it's only for a split second, you don't see the person, you don't see the enemy, you don't see the thief that's around that's on the side of the other car and parked right next to you. And so all it takes is for you to turn your head for one split second, and they realize they've been watching you. They've been watching your every move, just like the enemy. And as soon as you turn your head, as soon as you let down your guard, that's the moment that thief comes in and they take your car and they're going. And now it's just a domino effect of things just falling out of place. It's the same with the enemy. So what you don't protect will become bait. It's easy bait for the enemy. All right. So if you don't protect your seed, what do you think Satan's going to do? He's coming after your seed. And I hear a lot about trauma starts in the womb. I'm going to take it up another notch. Trauma starts in the previous generation. Because if Satan could get to your mama and your daddy, if he can, let's take it up another notch. If he can, start with your ancestors. He can start with your grandpa and your grandma. And nobody decided to say enough is enough. Everybody kept quiet. Everybody wanted to keep the secrets. What goes on in this house stays in this house. Or nobody really wanted to confront the true issue because the truth hurts. Or maybe it's somebody who you would never know because maybe they've died and they've passed away already. But nobody, that person may have been the person to open up the door to these different toxic patterns. And because people didn't know, right? Like, excuse me, the Bible talks about ignorance is bliss. And so if people don't know, or if people don't take the time and say enough is enough, I want to do something different for my family, I want to do something for the generation that's coming up after me, then it's just going to be a constant generational curse that's just flowing from one generation to the next. And I've said this before, there's a scripture in the book of Judges where it talks about there was a generation who didn't, there was a generation, y'all. It was a generation who didn't know God and who didn't know his works. All right. So the fact that you're looking at this video, I believe that you're the one. You're the one that's going to break these generational curses. You're the one that's going to decide to break the toxic patterns. You're the one, you're the mom. I know it gets hard, but you're the mom. It's time for you to roll up those sleeves and get on your knees and start praying, talking with God, because it stops with you. Think about this example. When you're pregnant, right? You're pregnant and there are certain orders and instructions that the doctors would give you. Okay. So the doctor may say there are certain foods that you can eat, certain foods that they highly recommend you don't eat. There are certain foods, there are certain things that they want you to avoid. They always want to make sure that you're not under stress. And if your body is under stress, if it's so much stress that it's going to affect the pregnancy, then they might put in an order for you to be bedridden, right? So you're basically at home and all they want you to do is just lay down and relax. Take it easy, because at the end of the day, it's really all for the health of you and the baby, your pregnancy. All right. So it's the same thing with God. When he calls you, when he entrusts that baby with you, when he trusts the seed in your hands, all right, we are called to protect our seed. There are some things that I just want to share with you, because when you're protecting your seed and you realize, okay, this stops with me. Let's say you grew up in a house where you saw addiction, you saw lust, You saw abuse, whether it be emotionally, physically, mentally, sexually, verbally, abuse, right? You saw adultery, you saw betrayal, whatever it is that you saw, dishonesty, any of that, whatever you saw in your family, and it was never addressed. Again, just because you left that household does not mean that it's not going to follow you. Familiar spirits is going to follow you until you uproot it. Uproot that thing. All right. It's no longer time for you to play pretty and trying to be cute with it. Oh, I'm a mama, and you trying to make the role of mama look cute. Sometimes you got to roll up your sleeves. And you have to say enough is enough. The devil is a lie. Like, not under my watch. I'm not going to allow my children or the next generation after me to have to go through what I went through. I'm going to set it up with the help of God. I'm going to set it up so that they don't have to start from the back. They have a better chance of, reaching their goals compared to what it looked like in the past. I'm going to put them up in the front. They don't have to struggle with the same things that I did. They don't have to fight the same way that I did, because I'm going to pave that path for them. And so this is your time to realize, write down. I'm all about journaling, and I understand some people don't like journaling, but there is power in you writing. You don't have to be a professional writer. I'm not asking for that, but there is power in your writing. Habakkuk 2:2 even talks about that. 2:3. All right. Talks about that. Write it down. There's power in your writing. So talk with God. What are the things, remind me, what are the patterns that I seen when I was growing up? And as you write those down, you bring it into prayer, and you do what you need to do to break those curses in your family. It will not be easy. I'm going to be the first one to let you know, you're not going to ever hear me tell you that breaking generational curses is easy. It is not. It is not. And I also want to point this out. Where you got sick, where you got attacked, you can't go back if you're trying to move forward. In other words, the same place that you got sick, you're going to have to remove yourself from. And if there are some people, including family, all right, no one is excluded. No one is excluded. We're talking about reaching freedom here. So no one is excluded. Wherever you got sick, the place that you got sick, wherever or whomever allowed the sickness to continue and is still allowing it, if you need to break away from that, just so that you can work with God, partner with God on breaking these generational curses, stopping the toxic patterns, so that you can be an example for your child, so your child can know what freedom looks like and feels like. All right, there are some things that you will have to unlearn so that you can learn the new way of doing things, the way it has always been intended. So I want to share that with you, because my heart really goes out for what I'm seeing out in the world with our youth, and it really starts at home. It starts at home. That's why God says, train up a child in the way that he should go, so that when he is old, he will not depart from it. It's not to say that your parenting is going to be perfect. It's not promising you that. It's not promising you. It is not promising you that you train up your child that, in the word and going to church and breaking these generational curses. It's not saying that your child is going to be perfect. What it is saying is, when you train up your child in the way that they should go, that's literally giving God a hook on them. There's some foundation there. So as you're training up your child in the way that they should go, God literally has a hook on your child. So even when your child gets older, and we all like to step out and do things that, once we get out of our mom's and dad's house, we think we're free. We think we can just do whatever. We are just free, okay? Or we think we're free. And so once we get out from mom and daddy's house and we out on our own, we think we can do whatever we want and get away with it. But God still has that hook on us that will bring us back to him. It's bringing us back home to our ultimate Father. And that's what you want. But at least you know that while your children are on your watch, you are going to do everything that you can to fight for their freedom. And again, it starts with you. It starts with you. For the doctor to give you orders and instructions, for you to make the decision, it's a decision, for you to make the decision to follow the doctor's orders, then yes, it's a high chance of you a high chance of you keeping up with a healthy pregnancy. But if you make the decision to not follow the doctor's orders and be stubborn and be selfish, because it's not about you, it's about your children as well. It's about the next generation as well. For you to do that and make the decision to not listen to the doctor's orders and instruction, that falls back on you. And your children are going to reap it, and their children's children are going to reap it, all because you didn't want to take the step and fight for their freedom, all because you didn't want to protect your seed. So that's the message that I came with today. I'm not going to say like the channel. You know what you need to do. You came on this channel. If you like what you hear, go ahead and take the steps that you feel like you need to take. And I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.